Hello everybody, welcome back. I'm the Strategy Professor, and today we're going to be talking about the 8.6 patch notes. So I'm going to have a separate video that does the support tier list in depth, and another one that does the top 5 champions for each role. So stay tuned for that. I can probably have that done by tomorrow, but we're going to start off with the patch notes. There's a lot going on here. Recover as fast as I can. If you look in the description, you can find timestamps if you want to jump around your favorite parts. I imagine I'm probably going to be spending a decent amount of time talking about Duskblade. I know I'm going to talk about Guinsoo's Rageblade change a lot. We'll be talking about the new Shurelya's Reverie quite a bit, and then I'll be talking about Conqueror a little bit near the end. So those will probably be the things that I'll talk about the most, especially Rageblade, because I think that's going to be the most misunderstood part of this patch. It's actually a pretty huge buff for a lot of champions. And it took a lot of research for me to really figure out why that is. But anyways, that's kind of a teaser. So stay tuned. It's going to be good. You can also access the Google Doc in the description. So if you just want to skim along, you don't have time to watch the whole thing, that's another option for you. Okay, let's go ahead and get started here. All right, so they're changing Duskblade. It's a huge nerf. It's a really, really big nerf for Duskblade. So this is going to be very bad for burst AD champions. There are some champions that got some compensatory buffs, and we'll go over those. But people who did not get any sort of buff to compensate for this are going to be really far out, out of bounds, right? They're not going to be that great right now. So I think Misfortune's going to get hurt quite a bit off of this. Pantheon's going to be hurt off of this for sure. Let me just pull up the list here, and I can tell you which champs. I didn't write them down off the top of my head, but Pantheon's definitely going to get shanked by this. It's champions that have to have an all-in burst rotation that are AD that would get Duskblade commonly. I think Jace gets this typically. I know he gets Ghostblade first. Their reasoning was if a champion gets Ghostblade first, then they're just going to say, whatever, just let him lose later in the game. Pretty much. That's how Freak described it. I watched Freak's patch notes video today when I was taking my daughter to daycare and back, while I was eating lunch. Yeah, people that jump out to me that are going to be kind of screwed over by this. Graves, Pantheon, Jace will be hurt. If they have alternative builds, then they might be okay. Kane, he does get some buffs, but he'll be hurt by it. Shaco has buffs coming. That's why I'm not mentioning Shaco. Zed has buffs that are good. I think that's probably... There might be some I'm missing. Wukong... I think we'll have to... I didn't do all the math on Wukong. Freak thinks that Wukong's going to be really good. We'll see. We can talk about Wukong when we get there. But so it's not going to affect a huge amount of champions, probably. But and Kha'Zix and Rengar. Rengar's going to get pretty screwed, but Rengar's already kind of out of the meta. We'll talk about Kha'Zix too. Yeah, basically anyone who's an AD assassin, this is going to be really rough. So that definitely helps most champions. It makes AP assassins even more palatable, right? So this is going to make Fizz even better if you want an assassin on your team, because AD assassins are going to be pretty rough here. Yeah, I had Kha'Zix, Kane, and Zed. People who are the best users with it because they could proc it multiple times in fights. Now, the damage difference here is pretty severe at level 9, when you would first pick this item up. It goes from 185 to 110 proc damage. So unless their buffs come up with an additional 75 damage somewhere.
Where you going?
Is that right, Rory?
Well, she looked at you, but then she decided to turn around and go back into her room.
Pwned.
Oh.
She's like, he's working. I don't want to bother him.
Or maybe she wants to play with us.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll get into that with individual champions as we go along. This is a pretty major buff, especially for nobody that... For champions that are not mentioned in this patch note with buffs. Now, they did buff quite a few of them a little bit, but it's not going to be enough. So that's the key number to keep in mind is 75. Can they make up 75 damage? And it gets worse as it goes up the tree. So the full amount that you lose by the time you're level 18 is 120. Which is obviously massive, but I was just talking about first item power spike. Is that right, Rory? I was just talking about the first item around level 9. Because that's most important, because later on you're going to fall off really hard anyway. So that's going to make all of these champions fall even harder later into the game. But my question was, will that stop their snowball early on? Because if they snowball enough and close out the game, you know, if they're already up an item, it's not going to matter if you're down 120, you know, damage on your burst rotation if you're up a full item on the enemy, right? You can make up that damage, probably, if you can snowball and get ahead. But if it's worse at level 9, if you can't even snowball and it gets worse later on, then you're really screwed. So the default position here is, if you're not sure, the champion's probably worse most of the time if it uses Duskblade on this patch. Is that right, Rory? She's playing with the doorstop thing. So we'll go ahead and move on from there. But yeah, so we'll see how that plays out, because they do mention other champions. They give little buffs to, and we'll compare it on kind of a case-by-case basis as we go along. Okay, Graves, he gets an extra half a damage. Is that right, Rory? He gets an extra half a damage. A little bit of extra...
hunter guy with the gun?
Magic resist... Do what?
Is it the hunter guy with the gun?
Yeah,
Graves?
with the cigar, with the mustache.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's the character I played in my 100% win
Did you?
ratio.
I thought you played Caitlyn.
No, I played Graves.
Oh. My wife has a 100% win rate, and she wants y'all to know that. The one time she played League.
Undefeated.
She's undefeated. She played Graves. Is that right, Rory? You want to get to your toys in the crib? Smokescreen, I mean, this is a nice quality of life buff. I mean, people black out faster. But it's not enough, I don't think. I mean, it's an extra half a damage per level. I mean, he's losing 75 off of Duskblade. So, you know, to make up for that, no. He's already not that great, and this is going to make him much worse, I'm pretty sure. I mean, there's no way. Like, level 9, you're getting an extra 4.5 AD, and you're losing 75 on your burst rotation off of Duskblade. So, you know, maybe he can get something else. I mean, I know that back in the day, he used to get crit, but they nerfed him a lot, and so they may have nerfed some of his crit ratios or his total attack ratios. I don't remember what they did with him back in the day. He was a very overpowered jungler for about half a split back in Season 5 or Season 6, but people stopped building crit on him, so I assume they nerfed something about that. People used to go, I think, like, did they go, like, Infinity Edge on him? I don't know. People might be able to find a new build with him. You know, who knows? Maybe he could go Infinity Edge, Stattik, or something. I don't know, but it's bad. It's bad. It's a bad nerf for him. So Graves still not going to be good. Kayn, this is bonus attack damage on his W. That's not total attack damage. This is also bonus attack damage. Now that's only on blue Kayn. It says Rost's ratio is unchanged. So red Kayn is definitely getting a nerf. But that's also because red Kayn doesn't get Duskblade. He gets Cleaver, I don't remember what else. Cleaver, Death Dance, GA, that type of stuff. So red Kayn will still be okay, right, Rory? So red Kayn gets a little bit of bonus here, but he doesn't build a lot of attack damage anyway, so it's not going to matter for red Kayn. For blue Kayn, getting a 0.25. Point one here. It's like a 0.35. So if you get to 200 AD, you're going to get close to 70. And remember, this is bonus attack damage. This is not his base attack damage, though. So you need to get 200-ish bonus attack damage. Is that right, Rory? She's, like, grabbing all these cords. Mommy's just letting her run wild.
I'm standing right here.
Letting her just run, just freaking putting cords in her mouth.
No.
About to flip over the huge computer on top of her.
I think Sadie gave up. Sadie was standing out in the hallway looking at Rory, looking pissed.
Sadie's stalking her. So yeah, you'd need 200 bonus attack damage to make up for the loss of Duskblade. And don't forget, he often procs Duskblade twice. He procs it once, typically before he infests them, and then when he pops back out, he hits him again, because he goes invisible when he infests them, so that's a double hit. So that's really like you're losing 140 damage at level 9. So yeah, blue Kayn, a lot worse than he was, and he was already sketchy. Red Kayn, still okay situationally, but not going to move the needle on him that much. I mean, it might help red Kayn that, you know, champions like Kha'Zix specifically will likely be a little bit worse. But Shaco is going to be a lot better, so that hurts red Kayn. Yeah. Is that right, Rory?
That's right.
In terms of, like, if you want an AD assassin. Because they all compete with each other for the same type of thing. Do you want, like, you know, a roaming assassin type of champion? which one do you pick? Kane, Shaco, Kha'Zix, because they all kind of serve a similar role.
Say hi.
Is that right?
Saying hi, Rory.
Rory's saying hi.
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 Okay. She's in her jammies.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, still not going to matter that much. Kha'Zix is an interesting case. I personally think that he's overpowered. Freak was like, he's fine, he's balanced. No, he's not. Like, this champion's ridiculous. He can run through the whole jungle invisible once he gets mobility boost and Ghostblade. And there's very little counterplay to that as a squishy champion. Because control wards don't see him anymore. He is really, really frustrating to play against when he gets ahead. There's very little you can do about it because he just shows up, you don't know where he is, and he just blows you up. I mean, in some, he's on par with Twitch. I would say he's on par with Twitch or Evelyn because he can't be detected when he's doing this. Like, he can run straight through. Let me look here. Show you what I'm talking about here. And this is very common. Pulling up a little map here so I can show you what's up. Okay, so super common. Okay, so your mid laner will have a pink ward here, and you might have a normal ward here, maybe a normal ward here. Kha'Zix can, in theory, come up, activate his R, turn invisible, roll around here, hits this bush, turns invisible if he has Moby Boots and activates Ghostblade. Hit here, hit invisible, get over here, get invisible again, get this far out in the lane, and then jump like this far and engage on somebody without them ever seeing it or knowing that it's coming. Like, it's extremely frustrating. Or he can get behind you, turn invisible, using his ult, and then jump over this wall and then be right on you and attack you. Isolation style. So he's very hard to get around, and he's very annoying because he can get around your control wards. This is not just for solo queue. Like, this is why he's one of the only assassin type of junglers that is played in professional play quite a bit. He's pick banned quite a lot in pro play, and that's because he's over the top. So yeah, I think that he definitely needed some nerfs. Now, is this a nerf is a question. Okay, so remember he's losing 75 damage off of Duskblade. He's losing an additional 15 here base damage off his Q. He's getting a 1.3 extra base attack ratio. But down here, he's getting an extra 0.6 base attack ratio. So that means he's getting a 0.7 against isolated targets. That's pretty massive. If you get 100 ability power, which you will, just Warrior plus Duskblade, that's more than 100. I think Duskblade's 55, and I don't remember how much Warrior is. $60, yeah, so you get 115, and then you'll get some more off of runes and stuff like that. So yeah, you easily hit it at 2 items. So that will give you more against isolated targets right off the bat. Even though you're losing 15 here, I guess that takes the total up to about 90. So it's, what, 55 plus 60, that's 115, plus just, we'll say 10 off of runes, that's 125. Close enough. It's like 88 damage. So that's very similar to what you're losing here in terms of just like off of your 2 items power spike Warrior plus Duskblade. It's pretty much going to be the same damage. But now you're getting an extra 35% damage here. 35% damage against isolated people. And you're dealing an extra 28 or so damage here. God, that's so much extra damage. So I'm pretty sure that's a buff. Pretty sure that's a buff. At least in the mid game. Now, later in the game, when you lose that, whatever the number was, 120 late game, I'm not sure if it'll make up for that. But it does keep scaling. So if you keep building AD, it will keep scaling. But at least in the mid game against isolated targets, I feel like it's a lot better. Now, it's a lot worse against non-isolated targets because you're basically losing 90 damage. You're getting a 0.1 ratio, which doesn't make up for it. So against non-isolated targets, it's a lot worse. So if the support is standing next to the AD carry, it's going to be a lot harder to blow them up in one shot. right? But if you can get them isolated, then it's going to be a lot better. Now, this Void Spike doesn't do extra damage to monsters. I'm not sure how much that really matters. I don't think he levels that up. I don't really know. I'm almost positive he levels Q first, and he might level this second. So it's not going to make a huge impact on his early clears, I think. I can't imagine that it would. I mean, let me see. Yeah, it's 85 damage. How much did it used to do? 20% bonus damage to minions and monsters. I mean, I really don't think that's going to matter. You know, yeah, okay. I mean, it matters. Sure, it's 20 less damage. Sure, it's 20 less damage on a camp early on. But because I'm almost positive this is not what you level, you have to level up Q first. Almost certainly you level your Q first. So, yeah, it's 20 damage. It has a long cooldown. You're going to do it like once per camp, maybe. I don't think it's going to matter. It still heals you. I really don't think it matters. I think you're still going to plow through. Especially because, don't forget, this isolated damage is not just against champions, right? So, yeah, you're losing 25 damage off of your W. But this isolation damage is against monsters, too. This is against Baron, it's against Dragon, it's against Gromp, Blue Buff. You know, a lot of the camps out there. So, doing 100% extra isolation damage, that's 35% extra damage. So, you're losing 20% damage on your W, but you're gaining, you know, 35% extra damage on your Q, which is what you're going to level anyways. So, yeah, it's going to make his clear against something like, you know, wolves or raptors or something like that worse, of course, but the W's only hitting one of those targets anyway, so it already wasn't good against multi-target unless you evolved it, which you never evolved that, so it doesn't matter. This really was only important against single targets, and yeah. So I think overall this is probably a buff. It's definitely a buff against isolated targets. Definitely a big buff. So he's going to be able to duel the crap out of people in the jungle now. Like, if he finds you in your jungle, you are dead. I guess maybe if you're near a monster, you might be able to... You can probably fight him if you're near a monster, but if you get caught out alone in the jungle, you're not near a monster, he waits till you finish that camp, and he comes in and picks you off, I don't think you're going to be able to fight him. He does way, way too much damage now. I mean, it's 200 damage at level 3... much higher AD ratio, and then that 35% extra damage is just insane. It's insane damage. So I think he's going to be even stronger than he was, despite the Duskblade nerf. So now remember, he does double proc this though really easily. He double procs it, so you know he's losing closer to like 150 damage. So I don't know. And he does evolve his R first. I don't know, because now that I'm thinking about it, he does double proc it quite a bit. So, you know, if he double procs it, sometimes he even triple procs it. If he double procs it, he's losing 150 damage, and it's hard to come up with that kind of extra damage early on. So, this is probably a buff. I would say maybe this is a buff to bad Kha'Zixes and a nerf to good Kha'Zixes. Kha'Zai? I don't know, whatever. Kha'Zix players. Now that I'm thinking about it, maybe it is a nerf. If you double proc, like, basically if you come up out of a bush invisible, and you hit somebody, and then you use your R to go invisible again, you hit him again, which is pretty common in some Kha'Zix fights, then it's a nerf. But if you can completely 100-0 them out of stealth without having to use your reproc, then it's a buff. So the upfront burst is much higher against squishy targets, but the sustained damage... if you have to go invisible again and proc Dusk again, is going to be worse. I think if they wanted to nerf the corner cases on Duskblade, they should just given it a cooldown. Just give it a 10-second cooldown, and that would have fixed it. And then that would not have hurt champions like Pantheon. Or I mean, I'm not going to be too sad about like Pantheon and those types of champions getting nerfed out of the meta, but... I kind of am, because I usually just completely destroy Pantheon in the mid-game. I kind of want people to play that champion a lot of times with the champs that I play, like Lulu and Janna. And I want people to play a lot less Fizz, and this is going to force people to play Fizz more. or like other AP assassins. I think the AP assassins in general are much more problematic than the AD ones. I think there's just a lot less counterplay to them. But anyways, okay, so, and that's a pretty broad sweeping statement, but I'm just thinking like Fizz, LeBlanc, Katarina, stuff like that. Like, I'm much more scared of that than like Talon or Zed most of the time. But anyways, okay, so we'll see about Kha'Zix. So like I said, single target, single invisibility burst, way up, double damage burst, down probably at 2 items, maybe back to even around 3 items, depending on what your third item is. I guess you'd go Warrior, Ghostblade. See, having this higher percentage, though... Well, lethality also affected Duskblade procs. We'll see. My instinct is, after talking about it a bit more, probably better against squishies early on that you can one-shot with 1Q anyways, worse against people that have armor that will require multiple invisibilities. Okay, nerf. 1 attack growth? Are you kidding me? What, you're gonna get, like, 9 extra AD at level 9, and you're losing 70 off of... Unless there's something I'm missing here. I don't understand. Because Freak was saying he thought Miss Fortune was going to be a lot better off of this. He's like, well, she can just get Infinity Edge now. It's like, yeah, dude, but that's not... I don't think that's as good. Like, yeah, her Q can crit. Her ult shots can crit, which are nice. But, like... She doesn't use attack speed. That's the thing, is people who want Critical Strike... Because there's not really a build path right now where you can get, like, good crit without also getting attack speed. Kind of. With, like, Xayah or Jhin, you know, you can go Infinity Edge, Essence Reaver, and just get, like, Gunblade, or not Gunblade, Rapidfire Cannon in between. I mean, maybe there's a build on her where you can go, like, Infinity Edge into Essence Reaver and just, like, completely annihilate people. Maybe Infinity Edge into Essence Reaver into Ghostblade. Or you could go Ghostblade, Infinity, Essence Reaver, or something maybe. Something like that, maybe. Where you're just not getting any attack speed and you're just going for max damage ultimate. I'm not sure how good that would be. But, like, the cool thing about lethality is those items don't have attack speed on them and they're cheap. That's what has made lethality really good for casters like Miss Fortune. AD side, people who don't necessarily want a lot of attack speed, because most of her damage in a fight is not going to be sitting there auto-attacking. It's going to be just pressing R, getting a good position, and just channeling your R. Right? Like, and a lot of your damage also, if you have to kill somebody, you want to burst them. You don't want to sit there and trade shots. You just want to auto-Q, and they better die, or you're going to lose. A lot of the time, you know? So that's why those types of ability, those caster champions like Jhin, like Miss Fortune, really like lethality. And now it's not as much of an option. So anyways, I think, so you can still go Ghostblade with her. I mean, I think it would probably be Ghostblade like Infinity Edge or Ghostblade Essence Reaver. I think Essence Reaver could be really good on her because she has such a high impact ult, and getting a cooldown on the ult is really good. Kind of like why you get Essence Reaver on, you know, Ashe, Essence Reaver on Jhin, Xayah, because most of her damage is built into her abilities, and getting that cooldown reduction is really sweet. I mean, she could also just go, you know, the old Cleaver build, just Ghostblade Cleaver, and then after that, just like Mortal Reminder or Infinity Edge. So, you know, she has other builds, but I don't think, I mean, this is not going to matter. That's the bottom line. I don't think it will. I mean, we'll see, but I mean, I don't think having an extra 9 AD at level 9 is going to be a big deal. I mean, it's nice stat-wise, sure, you know. You know, she's getting 315 extra gold, basically like 1 extra kill at level 9, which is good, but... Anyways, Nocturne. I don't think he's that great right now. This is not going to make up for that damage. At level 11, you're only getting an extra 25 damage. You're getting a 0.3 bonus attack damage. Well, if you get Warrior, Dusk, you know, we just did that a second ago. You're getting like 87 damage after runes. Wait, let me say. Okay, Warrior plus Duskblade is 115. No, that was with a different ratio. Okay, so Warrior Dusk is 115 plus 10 off of runes. You probably get more than that off of runes if you really work at it, but we'll just call it 10 for easy numbers. Okay, so 125 times 0.3. So you're getting 37.5, then you're getting 25 here. Yeah, you're still falling short. So this is a nerf, any way you cut it on Nocturne. Now, later in the game, when you get to 100, but then, once again, that's level 16, and that means that your Duskblade is going to be falling off hard. Right? So at level 16, that's 290 to 180. Yeah, so you're losing 110 at level 16, so... Later, but you do have a higher ratio. It'll be slightly, marginally better later in the game, probably, but it's a lot worse in the mid-game, and that's really when these lethality champions need to take off, so... I think it's going to be a lot worse on him, and I'm fine with that. I think he's really overhyped right now. I really don't think he's that good. He can snowball and get ahead, but I would, give me a Kha'Zix or give me a good Shaco, any day of the week if you want that type of champion, like the assassin type of champion. If you want the long range, like surprise engage type of fighter, Zac is just way better, I think. So, I don't know. I think Nocturne's overhyped. I think he's pretty easy to counter. You just stack armor, or if you have a Lulu or a Janna on your team, it's going to make it really hard to blow them up. And once he goes in, a lot of times after he kills somebody, he dies anyway, so it's basically a trade. Like, you can trade yourself for the enemy AD carry. But if they're playing something like Tristana, they're going to be able to get out of it. If they're playing Xayah, they're going to be able to get out of it, probably. Especially if they buy Ninja Tabi, which they should be if they're going against Nocturne. So I think he's overhyped. I don't think it'll affect the meta that much, but it is a nerf. Rengar, I'm not going to go through all these bug fixes. I think it's bad. I mean, you get an extra 0.2 here, you get an extra 0.1 here. So that's like 0.3 on a total rotation, 0.4 on a total rotation. I don't know about the lockout and all this stuff. Feels like a nerf. I mean, because he can proc this a couple of different times. Usually he can jump out of a bush, and he uses his ult. He can double proc it pretty easily. But even on single proc, losing 75 damage, I don't think adding this 0.4 ratio on your full ability suite is going to matter, like, that much. Yeah, it's only 50 extra damage. So, yeah, it's a nerf, and he's already pretty bad, so I don't think it's going to matter. Okay, Shaco, this is crazy. I didn't realize that Shaco's Q did no extra bonus damage after they changed this. When I was doing these notes, I was like, okay, what did it used to give? Is it giving it 10 extra damage? Is it giving it, like, 15 extra damage? What's the deal here? It's literally giving it all of this extra damage. It did not used to have this, and it did not used to have these ratios. What? Like, it literally did not used to give any damage on the Q. It did a long time ago, but they nerfed it a lot. So Shaco is the best assassin right now, because the Kha'Zix, like I said, is iffy. Might be better in some circumstances. Nocturne's definitely worse. Lee Sin gets some buffs, but he's still not going to be as great, I don't think. Most of those are for the late game, where he falls off really hard anyways. But Shaco... And I haven't been a big believer in Shaco. Statistically, he's really good right now, but... He's okay. I don't know. I'm a little historically biased because throughout most of League's history, he's been really bad. And it's hard for me to sort of separate, my 7 years of experience in League with, or going on 8 years. This is my 8th season. Thinking about, well, what's he doing now? And I feel like he is, when I see him lately... He's a one-trick champion, first of all. If you're not good with him, he's bad, okay? You need to be very good. And things that are, like, high skill cap with him, you need to know pathing. You need to know where you can go in with your Q. You need to be able to backstab people, and you need to be able to escape and get away even when stuff's, like, when you're going into hot situations. And the biggest thing is hallucinate. You need to be able to dodge skill shots with hallucinate. And also, like, use your clone effectively, like, to juke people and freak them out while you're also, running around yourself. So he's a pretty difficult champion to play correctly. And there are a lot of bad Shacos. And he can't really team fight, so you have to have, like, a good, competent split push team to really make him work, and that in and of itself is a challenge in solo queue. So, but this is crazy. So they are adding on the 50 here. They're adding on a 0.7 ability power ratio, a 0.7. So if we use that same paradigm that we just did, the you know, the 125, if he goes you know, Warrior Dusk, 125 times 0.7's already giving you 88 damage, and you're getting an additional 50 on top of that. You know, I mean, that almost makes up for a double proc. Like, you can double proc on people if you, like, I think if you pop your hallucinate, yeah, he vanishes. So, you know, you can get a double proc in there, which would mean you're missing 150 damage. But I think that's pretty uncommon. I mean, you can blow your ult for that reason, but I think that's really uncommon. I think he usually just runs people down and chases them. And don't forget that your Deceive critically strikes when you hit people from behind. So this can deal an extra up to 180%, or up to 80% extra damage. It's 180% total damage. So this gets even bigger with this. So if you hit somebody from behind, even with the 130 damage on it, dude, what do we say that was? 80. Okay, so 137. And the basic attack itself crits. Because this is bonus damage on the basic attack, I think. His next basic attack to deal bonus physical damage. Is this on hit? I'm just wondering if you had Trinity Force. Does this go into Trinity? And it doesn't say on hit. Next basic attack within this amount to deal bonus physical damage. It doesn't say it's on hit, so I'm wondering if Trinity, like, boosts this up. It doesn't say it increases his base damage, though. Let me see here. Okay, this guy's not answering the main question here. Love it, dude. The Redditors all coming out talking trash. This gold Shaco guy talking trash about one of the best Shaco players, a master level Shaco player in NA. He's like, oh, don't get advice from that guy. He sucks, man. He's still doing this stuff from like season 5. It's like, bro, he is a master level player, or at least high diamond right now. You are gold. Chill. But anyways, okay, so I don't know. Let's just assume it doesn't. That could be insanely, like, disgusting if it does. If Trinity does give the extra 200% damage, if it also applies to the physical damage or not here. But anyways, so, like, his damage at level 9, his base AD is going to be, let's see, 90. So you get 90 damage plus the 125 that we had before. So we get 90 plus 125, that's 215. And then this right here is 50 plus the 88, which is 70% of your bonus AD there. Plus the Duskblade proc is on hit, so that can't crit. But all of this is base damage that can crit. Or or times, we'll say you don't have Infinity Edge. 459 damage opening on a Q with Shaco off of just like Duskblade Warrior. What? And then every time he auto attacks people, then he's also getting a free crit on him. So he basically gets a crit every single time he auto attacks people from behind. So you have to constantly position and get autos from behind. But the moral of the story is this is a massive, massive buff to Shaco, I think. And this allows him to max his Deceive first, which is really big. I think people had been maxing 2 Shiv Poison. But, I mean, this is way better now, I think. Because then you get to go invisible more often. And it does this, you know, extra burst of damage, I think. I don't know. I mean, I'm almost positive this is a huge buff for Shaco. I've spent too much time on this already, so we'll go ahead and move on. Because I do want to spend time on other stuff. But, big, big buff to Shaco. So expect to see a lot more Shaco. He's going to be really strong. The bigger AD also procs... well, you could get... I'm talking here, like, you could get Infinity Edge also. Infinity Edge would work really nicely with this because you're going to get a much bigger crit. Because all of this base damage, as I just said, goes into crit, and you get a 0.7 bonus AD. So you could just completely skip the Duskblade if you wanted to. And just go for Infinity Edge. Now, Duskblade, the extra damage, the lethality does apply to this. I'd have to, you know, just go to a Shaco main, like the Reddit, and figure it out. But Infinity Edge seems like it could be a really strong choice here, too, because that also gives a modifier to your backstab damage, the 50%. Trinity Force, like I said, might be another one, especially if this is added onto the base attack damage, which it doesn't say it's on hit. It just says it does bonus physical damage. So if you get 200% of this, that's even better. Yeah, there are a lot of builds out there with him. Like, you can go Trinity Hydra if you want to. But Duskblade still looks kind of viable. But either way, any way you cut it, it's going to be really good. Okay, Talon. Don't think it's going to matter. Yeah, he doesn't get anything until level 11. Then he starts to slightly get, you know, some more after level 11. So that's going to make him hit harder late game. Once again, you need to snowball early. And having an extra 0.2 bonus attack ratio on your R, I don't think is going to matter. So Talon's going to suffer from Dusk, I think. Attack growth, you get 0.8 per level. You know, level 9, you get 7.2 extra attack damage. I don't think that matters. Now, this goes to 1.5 total AD. Now, it's different than bonus AD, because that does include your base. So, I mean, what is his base damage? This should include the new stats on it. 95. So you get an extra 0.4 off of that. So you get 38 base, and then we have like the 125 scenario. Well, he actually is not going to get Warrior. He would just rush Dusk straight up. Because Freak was talking about him in the middle lane. So he has 38. So if you're just going to get Dusk straight up with other stuff, you know, you're going to have like 65 AD when you first get it. 65 bonus AD. What was that other one? It's plus 37, I think was the number. 65 times... Where did I put it? One patch notes. 1.4. Or it's like a 0.4 extra from what it used to be. It's 63 damage. That doesn't make up for the loss of Dusk. I'm not seeing it. I think it's a nerf to him. I think he's already a fringe player. Like, he can be really good if he gets his couple of items, right? If he gets Ghostblade plus Duskblade, you know, he can do quite a lot of damage. But this is definitely going to hurt him. I mean, I don't think there's any way around it that it hurts him. Like, yeah, it does give him the extra total attack damage, which matters for his base, but it's still, like, Duskblade just gets worse. After level 9, it just falls off harder and harder. And the ratio, I don't think, is enough to keep up. I mean, maybe it is, but at best, it's neutral, and I think it's slightly worse than it was, so I'm not buying the freak Wukong mania. Okay, Zed. Interesting case, because now it does less wave clear damage, but if you can, for a good player, if you can hit multiple people with shurikens, if you triple hit shuriken on people, you know, you're going to be doing 300% damage instead of 225, or instead of 250% damage. So that's pretty massive. And then you get an extra, you know, 5% around level 11, which isn't a huge deal, but I didn't go through and do the math. I feel like this is good for, like, good Zed players. It's bad for bad Zed players, which I think that's a common theme on a lot of these patches. Like, if you can play the champion well, like the Kha'Zix, like I said, and the Zed, then it's still going to be strong. It just raises the skill ceiling for a lot of these champs. So it rewards you for putting time in and really one-tricking and learning a champ, and like getting those sick out plays still feel really good when you get like a triple shuriken, or I mean, I guess there's not really a lot of sick out plays on Kha'Zix. You just, you know, press R and go invisible. But so on the base damage, this could be up to, we won't even go into the bonus attack ratio here, because, well, I guess that does change. Whatever, let's do the bonus, let's do, let's just say you just have Duskblade, so 55. Okay, so we'll just call it 50. Okay, so that's 270. Well, it'll be 65, because you're going to have, like, runes and stuff like that. Okay, we'll call it 59. Let's call it 60. Let's just make it even. Let's just call it 60. Okay, so 280. So 280. So that's 840. $700. So that's 140 damage difference if you hit them with 3 shurikens. So yeah, you're losing 75, but you're dealing 140 extra off of just Duskblade Rush on Zed. Now that's assuming that you only proc Duskblade once. In theory, you could proc it twice if you auto-attack them. If you come out of a bush, you W over to them, you know, auto-attack them once, and then all-in them with your ult and your shadow next to him, and then hit him with all 3. Then yeah, you could proc the Duskblade twice on him, and that would mean a loss of 150 damage. But if you only proc it once, you're getting an extra 140. And you get an extra 5% or whatever. 5% of the damage dealt here. So you get an extra 5% of that of 140 is going to be like an extra, I don't know, 7 damage or so, 7 or 8 damage. So, you know, you're getting like 140, 148, somewhere between like 145, 150 damage. So I think that's definitely a win in most scenarios with Zed, because usually you're not going to get to W close to them and auto-attack them before you ult and then auto-attack them again. Maybe if you come at them out of a bush or something, but overall, moral of the story, it's a buff for a good Zed. Now, if it's a single shuriken, it's obviously going to be a nerf, right? So if it's a single shuriken, you've got, if you only hit them with 1, you got, what do we say, 60, so that's 230. Is that what we had before? I can't even remember. Maybe I did the math wrong before. I don't know. Whatever. Okay, so 230. Yeah, if you hit him with a single shuriken, it's definitely a nerf because you're not getting any bonus out of it. If you hit him with 2 shurikens, I was like, what? Yeah, you're just straight up losing 75 damage if you only hit him with 1 shuriken. If you hit him with 2 shurikens, it is 460 damage, whereas before it would have been 175%. So, okay, so it's 460. That would only be 58 extra damage. 57, 58 extra damage. So yeah, if you hit him with 1 shuriken, it's definitely a nerf. If you hit him with 2 shurikens, it's still probably a nerf. The extra 5% might compensate for that. If you hit him with 3, it's a buff. So if you're a really, really good Zed, you know, it's a buff. But otherwise, for most Zeds, it's probably going to be a nerf. Okay. We'll just say buff. Okay, Xayah. I don't think this is going to be enough to matter. It's mostly a lot of AP ability power ratios. AP Xayah is still bad, I think. I mean, we'll see. Like, there's a chance you could see, like, a middle, like, Gunblade Xayah or something like that. Gunblade, maybe Guinsoo's Rageblade Xayah. But overall, I think it's not going to matter as much. I mean, the 525 range is definitely good, and the 525 range on this is good. And the instant shield and the little bit of range here is good, but I still feel like she just takes too long to get going. I mean, maybe. This will definitely help her. But I feel like... I mean, the 1.0 ratio, that's for 6 missiles. The AP ratio basically gets doubled for 1 missile. I think it's still, you're going to go Essence Reaver plus pick on her to get the AD, to get, because I think upgrading to the 12 missiles is still by far the best upgrade you can get. I mean, that doubles your Q damage, and that's really how you destroy people. You one-shot them with your Q. So, nice buff. I think she'll still be on the weak side, but, I mean, she might be a top 10 AD carry at this point. I expect she'll go up, like, 2 or 3 percentage win points, but, or win percentage points, but, we'll see. Okay, so okay. I don't think it's going to break the bank on her. It's nice, but a lot of it is AP, and she's just not going to build AP with most builds. Lee Sin, I don't think this matters. He does get 75 extra damage at level 11, which is relevant. Obviously, he gets 150 at level 16, but there's a lot of counterplay to Lee at level 16. If you go full-on 80 Assassin Lee, like, maybe, but that's a pretty bad build most of the time, unless you're super far ahead. The extra range is nice. I don't think it's going to be a huge deal. I don't know how much this energy matters. It could matter quite a lot. It could matter at all. I don't know. I don't play Lee Sin a lot. My instinct is that he's still going to be pretty bad. Like, you might see him in pro play some, but he's still a super high skill cap champ. There's a lot of opportunities to outplay him, especially with Tristana and Xayah being very popular still. It's really hard to get a hold of them. Yeah, he's okay. I still think he'll be below a 50% win rate. If you're really good on him, this is good for you. If you're not good on him, or if you haven't played him a lot, this is not the time to pick him up, I don't think. So it helps. It's going to help him with his burst a little bit, but I think he needs more utility in his kit. Like, he needs to be able to transition to being tanky. Like, he needs to lower attack speed. He used to do stuff like that. Like, his E used to lower attack speed, and I don't know. I don't think it'll make that much of a difference. Lucian is interesting. He gets a 0.25 total attack damage boost, which is pretty nice on his R. I mean, because remember, that includes his base damage, too. That's not just his bonus attack damage, so that's potentially really solid. And, you know, 25 damage on this is a big deal. Like, level 3, 25 more damage is a really big deal, because you only put 1 point in this anyways, and it's basically doing, like, you know, over 30% more damage, which is a lot. So this is pretty nice. It's pretty nice. I mean, the press the attack buffs were pretty big game on Lucian. I still think that, like, Essence Reaver Lucian could be good. They did change his crit around. A lot of people forget about that. They increased the crit damage, I think, on his Light Slinger by a pretty substantial amount a few patches ago. And I said I thought that was going to be good for Essence Reaver Lucian, and we just haven't seen it yet. I'll tell you anecdotally, against Lucian, I feel like he does do a lot of damage. Like, I'm more scared of Lucian than I am most Caitlyn's right now, and Caitlyn's super popular. Like, yeah, the range in his laning phase, the 500 range, is definitely a big deal. And that sucks, but at most elos, people aren't going to punish you for that. Like, they're just going to sit there and let you farm. And I feel like this positions him as a really, really strong duelist, potentially. I feel like he has a pretty good matchup against Vayne. And, like, maybe Kaisa and a couple of other duelists. Anyone that doesn't have a lot of range, I feel like he's pretty solid. Why can't I find him here? No, there we go. Yeah, so they changed this. Can critically strike for 75%. If you have Infinity Edge, it goes even higher. Increase to even more against minions. Now, that was something that was changed fairly recently, I think. Yeah, right here. Patch 8.3. People forgot this. It can critically strike. So they increase the critical strike damage from 50% to 75%. That's a lot of extra damage. And they increased the AD ratio by quite a lot, 10% at early levels. So that gives him a lot better early game dueling, and the extra crit incentivizes you to build crit. And now that he does extra AD ratio, quite a lot of extra AD ratio, then it incentivizes you to build crit also. Because if you get something like Blatherin King plus Cleaver, those have really low AD damage thresholds on them. Right, like Infinity Edge has 70, which is a lot. Essence Reaver, I believe, also has 70. And Essence Reaver is really good because it gives you more mana and it gives you the cooldown so that you can, you know, jump around and do your combos. So I wouldn't be surprised to see something like, you know, like an Essence Reaver. I don't know if he'd go Rapidfire. Maybe Essence Reaver, Phantom Dancer, Infinity Edge, and just go for like a straight duelist, blow them up build. I mean, you could still go like the Phantom Dancer, Cleaver, Blatherin King build. I just feel like that build's pretty bad. I mean, maybe on like mid Lucian, it's okay. Is that what a lot of people are still doing? Yeah, he still has kind of a low win rate. But a lot of people are playing in middle. Yeah, people are still on that Blade Cleaver build. I mean, I guess that does get a little bit better here too with the ratios. I mean, it's a buff. It's obviously a buff. And like press the attack is very nice on him. That does increase the damage off of your Blatherin King, and lowering their armor does increase the damage off of Blatherin King. So there is a lot of synergy there. The double shots obviously lets you hit them twice. So now this is what I'm talking about. I don't see a lot of people doing this, but this is what I was thinking here. Is like Essence Reaver, Infinity Edge, Phantom Dancer. But there are some more people doing that. There's some people definitely toying around with that build. Sven was doing it. Sven went 9-2 on it. So I think some people are still trying the Blatherin King stuff, but we'll see. I do think that the Essence Reaver Infinity Edge is worth exploring, and I don't know if you should get Stattik or Rapidfire first. I'm not really sure about that, but more people are trying that build out. I personally think it's going to be pretty good here after the crit buffs, especially with Press the Attack. You'll get some pretty massive crits. But anyways, Lucian's better. So we'll see. I don't know if Lucian's a top 5 right now. He's probably not. Maybe. But I think he's probably one of the better duelists. If you want someone who's kind of in a split lane or that like can go along with a pit comp and just immediately blow people up. He's very good kind of early game damage, along with Jhin as kind of the premier like early game damage bullies. Okay, Quinn. How long are we getting here? Getting pretty long, and I haven't even talked about Guinsoo's yet. Quinn, I don't think it's going to matter. We'll see. These are some nice quality of life buffs, but none of it, I don't think, is extra damage. It just means that you can actually move around and not... Now, this is interesting. If you Sky Strike in a team fight and you hit like 3 people, then they all get vulnerable, but they all get the vulnerability on him, so she gets extra damage. But I just don't think that's how Quinn is meant to be played. I think she's supposed to be a split pusher. I don't think you should ever really, like... run her down. I think she's still going to be bad. So I'm not seeing a lot of ratio increases. Her base attack is down, but her growth is up. Yeah, a lot. So this will help her like fly around the map faster, which is nice, but I could be wrong about this, but I mean, I'm pretty sure that she usually likes Duskblade, Ghostblade. I mean, maybe she does crit now instead. No, she definitely wants Ghostblade, for sure. She does have a high win rate, but that's off of 9 games played, so she just... Nobody plays this champion. I mean, maybe you could go Dusk Infinity. I don't know. I don't think it's going to matter. I mean, if you're a Quinn one-trick, this is good, but if you're not sure, if you don't play her that often, I think you should probably hold out for more buffs. Okay, Rakan. Now, I talked about this before last night on the when I was going over some patch note stuff. I just don't think this is the way to fix Rakan. I mean, Rakan's not broken right now, and Freak's like, Rakan's fine, he's a 50% win rate. Yeah, but there are a lot of supports that are higher than that. Like Rek'Sai. I mean, Rek'Sai is an overpowered support. I don't know how this Rek'Sai got up there. It's just like one guy trolling. Who like played 27 Rek'Sai games. But anyways. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's 50%. He's okay, but it's like, come on, he should be higher than that. I don't know. I mean, he's okay. I really like Rakan. I think he's good. I think the problem, though, is his laning phase. And it's just the fact that he just does not do damage laning phase. And I really, really disagree with Freak. Freak was like, you have to buy Spell Thieves. It's obviously, like, really good on Rakan, you know, that people have a much higher win rate when they buy Spell Thieves. It's like, yeah, but it's... A lot of that is because people who buy Spell Thieves on Rakan probably, like, know how to play him more, and they're going to play him more aggressively, and they're not going to be auto-filled. Like, people who buy Coin are probably going to be auto-filled at least a good chunk of the time, and they're probably going to be in more aggressive lanes where they can use it. So I think that the data is definitely skewed a little bit, but Spell Thieves I don't think is as good on Rakan because, you know, Freak called him a pseudo-ranged champion. He is not ranged, okay? He has like 300 auto-attack range or something. You're not walking up and auto-attacking anybody, hardly, in lane. And this Q is extremely hard to hit. It has a very slender hitbox. Has a really long cooldown, as you can't really afford to level this up. I mean, there are some pro players who will level it up, you know, but I really don't like that build, because then you're just completely crushing your mid-game, because you're going to have 20-second cooldown on your W, 20-second cooldown on your shield if you're maxing out your Q, and that's just awful. So, yeah, I mean, your harassment tool, your only way to really proc Spell Thieves in lane is to land this super slender hitbox, like low range. It says it's 900 range. I'm skeptical of that. It's almost impossible to hit people with this thing in lane that are competent. They can stand behind minions and block it. Like, you're exposing yourself to their skill shots when you try to throw it at them. So it's like, you know, is it really worth it trying to go out and like hit the Blitzcrank with a Q? Maybe, but I don't know. It does very little damage early on. There's virtually no payoff. It does heal for a little bit. Has a huge cooldown. You're just going to be sitting on 3 stacks of Spell Thieves most of the time, unless you get them completely pushed in a lane and bullied out, and you're able to like auto-attack the tower to get your Spell Thief procs. You're just not going to get it. Like, yeah, is the AP good? Sure it is. He has great ratios on his AP now, but the bottom line is he's just not a good early game champion. Like, you have to try to all-in with your W, but when you do that, you have to W to them, plus Q, hit them in the face, maybe auto-attack them once, and then you have to use your E to shield to get back out, because you can't stay in combat because you're really squishy early on, typically, unless there's a gank coming or something. I mean, there are situations where you can all-in with the W, But for, like, standard trading, it's super mana intensive early on. I mean, it's like 70. If it's, like, level 5, that's like 70, and you're jumping out with 6. That's 130. Plus 60. That's 190 mana. That's like half your mana pool for one trade. It's like half your mana pool for one trade that's going to deal a total of, 160 plus 70, 240 damage to him or something. Use all of your mana to do that. And yeah, they have AP ratios on them, whatever. They'll do a little bit more. You just call it like, I don't know, 230 max. 230 damage for 190 mana, half your mana pool. That's just not good. So yeah, I mean, he's really bad in the laning phase. Like, what I would like to see them do is just fully commit to making this a one trick or like a one cooldown thing, kind of like what they did with Leona and her Q. It's like, okay, we're fully committing to making that the thing that you put 1 point in. And that made Leona a lot more viable. So, like, they just need to fully commit and just say, look, okay, we're going to make this a 9-second cooldown or a 10-second cooldown at all ranks. And we're going to increase the hitbox. It says effect radius. It doesn't hit multiple targets. It can only hit one thing. If it was wave clear, that would also be okay, but they just need to make this easier to hit. Like, just increase the hitbox on it a little bit. Or increase the range or lower the cooldown. Just, like, make it something to give him a laning phase. He would still have to hit it, but that would at least... He still wouldn't do much damage in the laning phase, but at least he could kind of sustain through the phase. So, I don't know. He's okay. I mean, you can still get him, but this is why he's not picked a lot without Xayah, because he just doesn't do any damage in the laning phase. He just sits there, and he can get bullied out really easily. Now, once he hits 6, that's a different story. He can do quite a bit of crowd controlling and, all-in fighting at level 6. So, he's good. He's great at 6+. It's just like that first 5 levels are really rough. And this doesn't do a lot to help with that. Like, yeah, AP ratios are nice, but you should be getting coin. Coin is what you get when you don't have a good laning phase with most champions, and he doesn't. So, coin is definitely what you should get on him, I think. And then, even if you go something like Ardent Censor Shurelya's, it's still not going to be that much more damage in the long run. I mean, it's okay, but his AP ratios aren't his problem. He has decent ratios. He just needs a better laning phase. They just need to give him some quality of life on his Q. Now, this extra 100 range is a pretty big deal. That's pretty nice. It's pretty nice. Xayah, this is a pretty big buff when Xayah, or a pretty big nerf when Xayah's with Rakan. It's effectively, it goes from dealing like 1.4 damage when Xayah's near Rakan, extra damage on her attacks with W, to taking it down to just 1.2. So this is a pretty big nerf to early game damage with Rakan and Xayah, but I still think they'll be viable. They'll be alright. It just makes them a little bit less oppressive. So Xayah's still good. Just a less good with Rakan, but still solid. Okay, Shurelya's. I think this is going to be a really good item, especially on enchanters. And I disagree with Freak again in his video where, he was like, oh, enchanters, they don't really have good items. Like, this is really cool. It's giving them more options. Because right now, tanks have all the good items, right? They can buy Adaptive Helm. They can buy Dead Man's Plate. I'm like, dude, have you ever played support, man? Like, those items are awful on supports. They're way too expensive. You don't have enough gold to go around buying, like, 2,900 gold items on tanks. Like, maybe on AP supports, because you have to do it on AP supports. It still doesn't feel good to have to buy a full Leandries, but at least you can get some kills on AP supports and maybe afford it. Tank itemization's awful right now. I'm going to do a video about it here pretty soon about what the current tank itemization situation is, but tank itemization is bad. Like, tanks are the ones who need extra items right now, and he's like, oh, well, they can get Righteous Glory. It's like, yeah, but Righteous Glory, once again, it's a money thing, right? Like, I would love to have Ferraris. That would be great. I can't afford them, right? It's the same thing with tanks. I would love to have Righteous Glory. It's $26.50. Like, sometimes you have to buy that, and it's good, but it's way expensive. And Dead Man's Plate and Adaptive Helm are really far out of the question. I mean, tanks basically have to get Equinox every game, usually Equinox, Locket, Knight's Vow, and maybe a Xayah mixed in there. Banner of Command. is another thing. So those are the options. So you do have some options as tanks, right? You can go Banner, you can go Xayah, you can go Locket. So you do have some good options. But Enchanters by far have the best itemization. By far. Because of the plus healing and shielding stat. And they're just very flexible. I mean, you can go Redemption, you can go Ardent Censer early, you can get a Mikhail's if they have a lot of CC, you can still get a Locket, it's still pretty good on them. I mean, on a lot of them, you could get Banner in a pinch, it wouldn't be awful. It's like, okay, you know. So they can go in there and poach some of the tank items. Yeah, tanks, you know, you can get a Redemption on Thresh if you want to. You could get a Mikhail's on Thresh, but it's not going to be good a lot of the time because you're going to be too squishy. So anyways, I think this is the rich getting richer. I think that Enchanters already had the best itemization. I think they already had some of the best rune options. And I think they already outscaled. I mean, everyone except for Sion, a lot of these champions up here are going to be Enchanters, right? You've got your Janna, Nami, Lulu, Soraka, Sona. I mean, that's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the top 10 champions. And this is a troll support, like someone trolling, and Rek'Sai is a troll support. So, you know, really, that's like 5 of the top 8, like, legit supports are Enchanters right now. Yeah. And then another one is like AP. The only tank in there is Sion, right? Yeah, the only tank is Sion. Legit support. I mean, you don't even get to the next tank until Taric. And I would argue that Taric really is more of an enchanter. I mean, he is a tank, but he's like a tanky enchanter type of champ. So, yeah. So, I mean, and then Poppy is a very low play rate. Extremely low play rate. So she's all right, but... I mean, certainly in the top 14, you're getting like 1.5 tanks. Tanks are the people who need item. They need help. But anyways. Okay, so... and remember when I was talking about the fall of tanks and some people were disagreeing with me? I don't understand why tanks are down so much. I think they're still going to be really good. They have a lot of problems. Just like I said. On patch 8.5, they have a lot of problems. Okay, and that's why they just disappeared. Except in the pro scene. But in solo queue, they just get massacred a lot of the time. So this item's really good. It's cost efficient by itself. About 94% efficient, which is really good. Considering that it has this good active. So you're paying basically 1986. You're getting 1986 gold value for an item that only costs 2100 gold. And it's only on a 60-second cooldown and gives everyone on your team 40% bonus movement speed who's close to you. So this is awesome for engages. This is very, very good to speed up like a Rakan. Or, I mean, if you are Rakan, that's very good. But like an Olaf, a Nasus, a Lowy, you know, all of these bruiser type of champions just want to get in there and fight. It's really, really good. So I expect to see this in pick comps. I'm not exactly sure where this is going to fall in the pecking order. I don't think it's going to be like a must-rush item. But I think if you're really far ahead, especially if you have bruisers, this definitely could be an option. You'll probably still want to get Redemption early on champions like Janna and Lulu, and then sort of figure it out from there. If you want to get Shurelya's Reverie, if you want to get Ardent Censer, you have so many options. Mikhail's, Reverie, Ardent Censer, Redemption, Locket. You have an embarrassment of riches. And this is much better than Twin Shadows. You know, I know it might seem like, well, Twin Shadows is the same thing, right? It even has more ability power. It has basically the same movement speed, so why isn't it better? Cost. This costs 2,400 gold. So if you look at the efficiency, this is only 77% efficient. You're paying 1848 gold. Or you're paying 2,400 gold for 1848 value, whereas you're paying 2,100 for, you know, basically 2,000 gold worth of value for Shurelya. So you're only paying 100 gold for the passive. Here you're paying like 550 gold for the passive. And this has a 90-second cooldown. So it's like 33% lower cooldown on Shurelya's, and it immediately boosts everyone in to go fight. This is good for scouting to some extent, but it's a lot worse for engages because people see the ghost coming and they can jump away, they can dodge. You know, they can do a lot of stuff to counterplay those ghosts. But this is going to let your team actually run in there and fight. So I think this is way, way better than Spooky Ghost. You're going to see it a lot more often. And it's good. So yeah, that was just a 300 gold differential, you know. And then when we start talking about tanks building like 2,900 gold items, anyways. So yeah, really good item, situational. If you're ahead, if you have kind of a Zerg squad team that just wants to go in there, run in there and maul people, pretty good option. But it does not have plus healing and shielding on it, so it's not going to scale as well as something like a Mikhail's or an Ardent Sensor with Redemption. So it doesn't have as much synergy. Obviously, it's like super good on Rakan because he's an enchanter that wants to engage, that benefits off of AP. I'm trying to think of someone else with AP that's a common support that would really want to engage that hard. I mean, Lulu, you can whimsy people and, you know, Shurelya to give them a super speed boost. So I think Lulu's going to be a pretty big beneficiary of this as well. She doesn't benefit as much from plus healing and shielding as other champions, so she's not losing as much collateral sort of cost there, but we'll see. You'll definitely see this item a good chunk. I don't think it's a must rush, but I think it's a good tool to have in your tool belt. Abyssal Mask, whenever I read this, I just read massive buff to Fizz. This is what I read when I read this, because right now a lot of champions mid lane can like really crush AP assassins or really almost any AP champion by just rushing Abyssal Mask. You know, when you think of like Cassiopeia gets this item very often, Rise gets this item, Anivia in theory could get this item, and that gives them so much extra health and magic resist while still giving them some damage that was one of the only things holding Fizz back from like murdering these champions early, and he still was murdering them. Fizz is ridiculously strong right now, and now he's way stronger. So like Fizz is a nightmare in solo queue with this nerf, because now there's just not a good AP item you can get. This is, by the way, this is like lights out for this item. It is so bad. If you look at the edge, I looked on the PvE what the difference is. It's like you have to be basically melee combat pretty much to have this work. So you'll still see this on someone like maybe Malachi, or I don't know, Ornn. Like there might be a handful of champions that would still get this, but no ranged champion is going to get this because it's just not going to work anymore for ranged champions. So, you know, those champions, they still have options, right? You know, Cassiopeia, Rise, you know, all of those champions, they can still get Rod of the Ages, and that still gives them even more damage, but that's going to make them a lot more susceptible to AP assassins, Fizz. And, you know, this will help out things like Katarina, LeBlanc, Akali, a lot of champions this will help out. So anything that's an AP assassin is getting a huge buff off of this. As far as, like, you know, Rise versus Cassiopeia, I don't think it's going to throw the power order, you know, any other way. This does help Azir, because Azir doesn't get Abyssal Mask. So it does help Azir out quite a bit when other people can't abuse him. But as far as champions who would build this against each other, I don't think it's going to make that big of a difference. Seraph, this is also going to make tier users a lot squishier. So Cassiopeia, Rise, Anivia, a little bit squishier once they complete their Seraphs. Don't think it's a huge deal, but it's nice. Usually people will break the shield before 3 seconds anyways, but it is nice to nerf that. Tier is already a little on the strong side. Dead Man's Plate doesn't matter. It's still going to be pretty bad most of the time. It just, like, it's okay for split pushing. Some champions will want this. Okay, so it's magic damage, which is weird. So now you can do mixed damage, I guess. Consumes all momentum from basic attacks, even if at less than... Okay, so now that'll help some people who do all AD, like Darius would commonly want this. I mean, this can kind of help with splitting, I think. Does the momentum stop if you hit a minion, or is it just champions? Let me read this bad boy. Generates a maximum 100 momentum stacks by moving, which grants up to 60 bonus movement speed, decays while immobilizer passive. Okay. Okay, yeah, so it does hit on minions. So yeah, I don't think you're going to see it that much. I think Randuin's is still going to be the go-to buy because there's still going to be a lot of crit champions running around. You might see some more Deadmans. You might see some Sunfire occasionally, but I still think that Randuin's is going to be the go-to as long as Critical Strike is really strong. So I don't think that's going to shake it up too much. Okay, let's talk about Guinsoo's here really quickly. I've already gone over the time. I mean, there's just so much. Every batch, especially this one, that I feel like I have to go into if I want to give you, like, actual depth. Okay, so Guinsoo's is... getting a lot of changes here. Alright. And I thought at first glance this was going to be trash. I thought this item was not going to be good at all. Let me go ahead and just close out of these. I know some people freak out. They're like, oh my god, you have so many tabs. There. I was looking at some Magic stuff, obviously. It was kind of a fun recent... I've been thinking about getting back into Modern, but anyways, that's a different story. Let's look at this. So the biggest contribution to this, and this looks like it sucks at first, and I thought that it did, and I watched Freak's video, and I was like, the thing to keep in mind is that this scales off of other stats right now, okay, in terms of, like, you want a lot of other stats, and I was like, well, that's really bad to rush then. I mean, who wants this crap? You have to get so many other items to activate these things. Here's the thing, though. Attack speed, if you have... And there are a lot of abilities out there that give you bonus attack speed. If you have abilities and runes like Lethal Tempo that give you a lot of bonus attack speed, that attack speed steroid is huge. It's really, really big. It's like 50% extra bonus on attack speed when you stack this up. It's also 600 less gold. So that's very cheap. Very cheap. Okay, it's getting down. It's not quite as low as like attack speed items that are like 2,600 gold, but it's less. It's cheaper than like prime time items, right? So it's cheaper than like the 3,400 for Infinity Edge or 3,400 for Blade of the Ruined King or whatever. It's cheaper than most prime time items. Okay, so it's kind of in this sort of in between area. Now the base stats on it are still like okay, right? So they're 2468. That's if you haven't hit anybody with anything. Okay, that's just the standard stats on it. And most of those are pretty good. If you don't include the AP, so if you're playing a champion that doesn't benefit from AP rather, it's 1925 gold value. Okay? But let's look at some scenarios here with this item. As a single item power spike. Let's look at Jinx. Kind of a weird user. But I picked Jinx specifically because she has a really big attack speed steroid. Oh, need Wikia. Let's look at Jinx here. Okay. So Jinx gets up to 130% extra attack speed when she's using her minigun. Now, this does not apply to switcheroo rockets. A lot of times in team fights, she will go for switcheroo. But this might make her reconsider, and you might see some new builds on Jinx, okay? So the 48% attack speed does scale with ability actives. All right, so if you look at Jinx, if you take, and I'm just going to look at level 9 as if you rush this item, okay? So Lethal Tempo is another thing with runes. If we look at Lethal Tempo at level 9, now, keep in mind, they did just nerf Fleet Footwork. Okay, so that is less attractive than it used to be. It's still good, but it's not a must-buy item anymore, okay? So if you look at Lethal Tempo, level 9, that's about 54% attack speed. You know, cut roughly in half, 26% for 48% attack speed, okay? So that would give you a bonus 26% attack speed on this item. You get Alacrity, right? When you get that stacked up, Now, I just took fully stacked Alacrity. You may not have fully stacked by the time you complete this, but just whatever. I just went ahead and did it. So that's about 50%. So that's 9% extra attack speed off of Alacrity. The base attack speed that you get off of this item is 37% attack speed. Now, that's going to throw off the math a little bit because I accidentally double counted the base attack speed. So we'll figure that out in a second. But basically, you're getting 37% attack speed off of the base, because I'm pretty sure it multiplies with itself. So you get 25% base attack speed. Then as you proc up your rage, or whatever they call this, as you build up your rage, then this also gets modified. This 25% base that gets on here, okay? You get 130% from Jinx's Q. Once you get that charged up, so that's 62% extra attack speed. And your extra attack speed per level, by level 9, you only get to like 6%. She has super low attack speed per level. Yeah, so you only get 6%. So like half of that is like 3%. And she has pretty low base. Okay. So that's 3%. So all in all, that's 137% attack speed that you're getting off of this item. 137% attack speed. That's insane. That is insane. So 137% attack speed is attack speed's 25 per. That's 3425 value. So even if this thing did not have a single other stat on it, and it just said you get 48% extra attack speed based on all of your other modifiers, if it didn't have a single other stat on it, it would still be 114% efficient. No other stats on it. That's all it does. No passive down here, none of these stats, no extra scaling here, no on-hit damage, all of that doesn't even matter. It still would be that efficient on Jinx. What the hell? Like that's ridiculous. Now, yes, all of this has to get going, right? You have to have Alacrity stacked, you have to get 3 auto attacks with Jinx while you're warming up. You know, you have to have your lethal tempo proc. So yeah, there are some conditionals here, but that's so insane. And then if you compare that with the bonus, or the base stats here, not even including the AP. We accidentally double counted the attack speed here, so, you know, we're going to have to take off 25. Okay, so 625. So if you do the 1925... That's 4725 value off of that item. That's not including any extra AD that you get. That single item. No extra AD off of any other items. No extra AP for on hit. None of that stuff. And I didn't even include the extra attack speed that you get just for going in the precision tree. So if you like go precision plus, you know, sorcery or whatever, you would get an extra 9% attack speed. So you get an extra 4, you know, an extra little bit of gold off of that, right? Like 100 gold value, something like that. But that's still crazy. You know, that's still like 158% efficient off of a single item rush on Jinx. Single item. That's not even including the value of this rage that extra triggers on hit effects in extra time, right? So you would get extra basic attacks here. So you could run that on Jinx. You could run this plus like Hurricane or Wit's End or Blade of the Ruined King. God, it pains me to say that. But like you could do it. Wit's End in particular, especially with champions like Kog'Maw, I think this is going to be crazy on Cog. Because Cog already, like, the thing about this is you're losing AD. And, you know, on this, at your level 1, you're trading basically the AD that you used to get and the AP that you used to get for just a truckload of attack speed, pretty much. And for most champions that wanted this, that's a good trade, right? So you're basically getting 137 attack speed, but you're losing, like, the 48 attack damage and the AP and whatever else whenever you charge it up before. It's important to note, now this is one thing that Freak was wrong about. He was saying this is basically a critical strike because you get 24% AD. That's not 24% crit because critical strike crits on your total AD. That crits on your base damage also. This is strictly bonus AD. It is much, much worse than Critical Strike. So, it is not Critical Strike. Okay, he was saying, this is not crit, but it's basically, because it's, you know, giving you, it scales with your AD. It's not total AD, it's bonus AD, okay? So, yeah, that's going to scale in there too. You're going to get 24% of your attack damage here, whatever, you know, a fourth of this. So you're going to get an extra, like, 6 AD, which is another 240 gold value. So there's even more gold value than I talked about in this. I was just talking about strictly the basic attack speed that you get off of it. Okay, so Kog'Maw, if you have 2 points in Q, which is what you're going to have probably, because you're going to be maxing out your W by the time you get this item. You have the attack speed growth, you have this right here, then you're getting and you add in Wit's End, you're getting an extra 20% attack speed off of Wit's End because it has 40, so it's going to drop down to 20 or 19%. And then when you finally get your 5 points in Q, you're getting an additional 7%. So when you get Guinsoo's plus Wit's End, then this passive here becomes worth 2950 gold value. And he does benefit off of the AP. So, minus, because remember I double dipped the attack speed on accident in my calculations, plus 2950 is 4793. So that's 160% efficient. So that's still pretty huge. Still pretty huge. That's not like as insane. I think it used to be like 5600 or something attack speed, the old one. But once again, you know, I'm not including the full value here. I'm not counting the extra 10% AD that you'd have. I'm not counting the AP that you'd have, or all of that stuff, or the rage, whatever that you want to value that at. But I think that this build is actually better. Remember, it's cheaper too. So, you know, I think old Rageblade was something like, what is this, 160% efficient? I think old Rageblade was 3600, and I think fully stacked, all of the stats combined were like something like 5600 maybe. Yeah, so it's better. It's better. Like the old fully stacked Rageblade, now that was single item Rageblade, could be up to that value, but not everyone was going to get full value out of that. You know, the AP scaling was very low based on that, right? The AD scaling wasn't that great because you weren't building crit, and a lot of these champions didn't have huge AD ratios. When you're thinking of like Kog'Maw and Varus, they would much, much, much rather have attack speed, because attack speed synergizes so much better with on hit and with the rage, the Guinsoo's rage passive, and with your Wit's End and all that crap. Attack speed is way, way undervalued in this build. So you would much, much rather trade some attack damage and some AP for far more attack speed. And that's what you're getting here. So on the surface, it still is more efficient at 2 items, and it's a better kind of stat for you. The attack speed is way, way more valuable. So yeah, I mean, I think that like Guinsoo's, and you're going to get this faster now. That's the big thing, is it's even faster than before. Right? So that, and you don't have to sit around and wait. A lot of times before, you had to sit around and wait on this blasting wand, and that just sucked. It felt so bad. You're like, God, this feels terrible. I have to build this like 850 blasting wand and wait on this other crap. It's just awful. Well, now you don't have to do that. It's a much easier build path. You have to just get an amp tome, right? And then you just complete it. So it's a much, much nicer build path. And now you can get this amp tome too, because one of the big problems is like sometimes you have to go back to base. You have enough for recurve bow, and maybe you have an extra 435 gold, so you don't have enough for a pick, but you might have enough for an amp tome. So now you can have more efficient buys and get that amp tome sooner if you need to. So it's great. I'm all on board with this. And then Wit's End is 2400 now. That's even cheaper than it used to be. So now you're online. So yeah, it does take 6 stacks here, so you can get up to 30. Now, it only so you need 10 stacks here to get up to the full 30. So that is definitely a nerf. But you know what? You still get 42 on-hit damage, or on-hit bonus damage, and that's what is really going to matter here. And you stack it a lot faster because you have so much more attack speed, and you have the Guinsoo's Rage. You'll be able to stack it up pretty quickly. So yeah, now you have this like massive 2-item power spike at 2,400 gold and 3,000 gold. So you have a big power spike at 5,400 gold, whereas a lot of other people are going to get Infinity Edge. I think Stattik's 2,600. Are going to have to wait an extra 600 gold. So you're going to have your power spike a lot faster, and there's a ton of synergy between these things. And then you're going to be able to get your next item, which is also going to be cheap, which is probably going to be Hurricane, because now you... Like, Wit's End is so good on Hurricane. On hit. I don't know if Hurricane stacks this faster or not. Oh, reduce the target's magic resist. So you can reduce the magic resist of like 3 different people, so it still stacks at once, I'm pretty sure, because it says on hit. So if you have Hurricane, it would deal 42 damage to each person from each bolt, and it's going to lower their magic resist. And remember, this affects your entire team. So this is going to make your Ryze do more damage. When you lower their magic resist, it's going to make your Xayah do more damage. So the Wit's End debuff is no joke, especially when combined with Hurricane. It's really good. And so I think overall, the moral of the story is this is way stronger. I think this is way, way stronger on Kog'Maw specifically, but you could even get something like this on Jinx, and it wouldn't be a complete joke. It would kind of be a joke, but like not really. I mean, that's a lot of attack speed. That's a lot of attack speed, and you could get this plus Wit's End even on Jinx. Like, yeah, she doesn't do magic damage, but it would still do on-hit damage. It would still, you know, lower the resistances for everybody else on your team to do damage. So, I mean, there might be a world where you would even, you know, I don't know if that's exactly what you would do. But, you know, if you get your attack speed up and you just attack with your minigun, and you just run something like Guinsoo's Blade the Ruined King is another one. So I talked about Twitch with Guinsoo's plus Blade the Ruined King. So Twitch at 2 items, that would give you a total of 3325 extra stats. So you'd have 3325 plus whatever the original is. Now he doesn't benefit from the AP. So that'd be 1925. Let's do it. Let's see, 1925 minus 625 because I accidentally double counted. So that's 1300 plus 3325 be 4600. That's still 155% efficiency. So yeah, I mean, you could see something like this where you have Blade the Ruined King Twitch, who goes like Guinsoo's Blade the Ruined King Hurricane, and just freaking mows everybody. So yeah, that's really, really good, potentially on Twitch, and that'll stack his poison up even faster, because now you have Hurricane to stack it, and you have Guinsoo's to stack it. So, and you're going to get just, like, off-the-wall lifesteal, because, remember that the Guinsoo's double procs Blade the Ruined King, and double procs the lifesteal off of Blade the Ruined King. So yeah, I mean, that could get pretty wacky pretty quickly, if you went like Guinsoo's Bork. Now, that's a bit more of an expensive build, right? So that's going to be 3,000 plus 3,500. So that's going to be more expensive than, you know, standard builds, other people. So, but I mean, you could also just go Guinsoo's Hurricane if you wanted to, and then get Blade second, and that could be perfectly serviceable. So now keep in mind with Hurricane that there are a lot of restrictions in the way that interacts with Guinsoo's. So the Hurricane bolts do not stack Guinsoo's any faster. It's just the on-attack Guinsoo's, and the double strike off of Guinsoo's does not proc double bolts off of Hurricane. So it doesn't stack this faster, and the bolts don't double proc off of this. So there's that stipulation there. However, it does proc the on-hit off of this basic attack. So it does proc that extra on-hit here. And I think that could proc... No, that doesn't proc twice, but that it does stack the extra on-hit. So it's on the table. I'm not saying Twitch is going to do that. I don't know entirely if Twitch is going to do that, but in the past he has run a Blade the Ruined King build that's possible. So it gives him a lot of attack speed. Once again, you want a lot of attack speed on Twitch. You know, it gives him an extra 100% attack speed, and then you get an extra 12% attack speed once you get Blade the Ruined King. But just rushing Guinsoo's first gives you 100% extra attack speed on Twitch, and that poison is going to stack up real fast if you do that. Another kind of off-the-wall champion that could get this would be Azir. Could be really strong with this. So, ironically enough, if you look at Azir, he gets 107% extra attack speed base off of this. So that's a lot of value. If you get Nashor's Tooth, that's 25% extra attack speed that you get off the tooth, and you get an extra 20 AP off of the tooth because you have 80 AP. And remember that Guinsoo's does give you, 25% extra AP. So I'm not sure. That's a little weird on him, but stat-wise, it kind of makes sense. You get 30, 37, 35 value off of it. Now remember, if you don't use the AD off of this, it's going to drop the value a little bit. So, yeah, it's going to be down. So, if it's whatever it is, 37, 35, and we'll say it just loses 800 gold of value. So, let's see, 37, 35. And then up here, off of that, whatever that base, let's just say it gets 1,500 value even. Pretty low. Let's say it loses 900 gold value off of it. Something like this divided by 3,000. And it's still 175% efficient. Remember, these calculations, like, I'm not even including the scaling off of other stats or the Guinsoo's Rage. Like, yeah, Azir's not going to proc Guinsoo's Rage most of the time because his soldiers, I don't believe, trigger on-hit effects an additional time. I'm pretty sure it doesn't work that way. I don't know if they have a specific thing about Azir here. I know this video is taking forever, but I'm excited. I think this is kind of like a cool new paradigm. And I'm trying to bring you the hottest, newest stuff that I can here. Before everybody else. And that's what happens when you give actual in-depth. Okay, so it applies spell effects, such as physical... Death's Dance and Black Cleaver. Applies effects as physical damage... Oh, that's the Sun Disc. Sand Soldiers. Okay, applied as a spell effects are applied as ability damage, area of effect damage, and magic damage. Okay, so it's only spell effects. I'm pretty sure it's not on hit. Okay, I'm just going to assume that Guinsoo's Rage does not trigger with it, okay? And that you're not getting any benefit out of this. Alright? It still doesn't matter. I didn't even count those. Didn't even count those in the calculation, okay? Actually, it does include this, like the on-hit stuff here. That does count. So that's 360. Either way, you have a lot of wiggle room. I'm not sure it's something that Azir would want, but it would give him a lot of extra attack speed. So it might be too cute on Azir, but it is 175% efficiency. Even if you drop it by a couple hundred extra gold, what was this? 37, 35. Well, let's just look here. Let me see. I can find an actual number instead of just, like, theorizing this stuff. Okay, so what's not going to count with Azir? Okay, the attack damage is not going to count. And we'll say the on-hit doesn't count. And I double counted the attack speed in the calculation. So let's do whatever the base number is. Okay, so 2468 minus... the 675. Wait, why is it 675? Thought that counted as 25 per point. Yeah, their math is wrong there. Someone failed that math. Anyways, so there might be a minor little bit off, right, Rory? Might be a little bit off. It should be 625. Hi.
Say hi. Can you wave? Can you wave to Daddy? Can you wave to Daddy? Oh, you gonna jump into Daddy's arms? You looking at Daddy upside down? You upside down. This is what she does voluntarily.
Oh no.
Oops. Okay, there you go. She wants the blue keys again.
You want the blue keys, Rory? Okay, so that would take you to 918 value, and then we're taking off the 502 value. Okay, so it only goes to 542 value. So 30. I don't know what I just did there. Okay, back up. 3725 plus 25 divided by 3,000. It'd be 142% efficient if you got it. So now Azir's auto attacks do trigger the basic attack thing. It doesn't trigger the on hit, but I'm pretty sure when he attacks, it will queue up the rage, I think. Even though he doesn't benefit from the rage, he would still get that stacking 48% total attack speed and plus 24% AP. And that's obviously really good if he gets something like Death Cap next, which is going to add a whole bunch of extra AP, and then he's going to get 24% benefit off of that too. Right, Rory? He's going to get 24% off of that too. Yeah. So that could be pretty crazy, Rory. You could go Nashor's Tooth, Guinsoo's Rage Blade, and Death Cap, and then murder everybody. Doesn't that sound powerful, Rory?
I know.
Like this? You feel powerful right now, Rory?
She feels full. Her belly's full.
Did she have a juice box?
No.
Yeah, Rory?
She had some milk.
What are you doing, Rory?
You say ba 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 into the
Ba
microphone.
ba ba.
Ba ba ba.
Tickle tickle.
You
Okay.
go ta ta.
Bedtime.
Brush your juice and bedtime.
So, I don't know. I mean, that might be goofy. That might be pushing it too far. But like I said, it's 24% extra AP. That's a lot. That's like a little mini Death Cap. The scaling on that with Azir. So you get 20 extra AP here, but if you have something like Death Cap with that, I'm not sure how that would stack, actually. I think they would multiply with each other. So Death Cap... I should have probably done an entirely different video about that item because I'm sure this section is going to be like 30 minutes long. Yeah, you get 40% ability power here. So under that paradigm, what I just said, you'd have 120 ability power. That doesn't include off of runes or anything like that either. But we'll just keep it simple. We'll just say it's because you have 80 off of Nashor's, and then you're getting the extra 20. So that's 100 flat. Then you're getting 220. Wait, let's just do Nashor's first. Let's apply Nashor's first. So just 80 plus 120 plus the Guinsoo's typically gives you 25. 25 flat plus, let's just say, whatever. Let's just say you get 20 off of runes. 20 equals 245 times 1.4. That's 343 ability power times, now you have the fully stacked Rage Blade giving you 0.25 more. That's 85 ability power. That's an extra 1865 value off of that. So, yeah. So if you go with whatever this is, you go 3 item power spike. You know, if you do a Death Cap directly after that, if you go for a 3 item power spike, 5,600, and then whatever the base, I don't even remember what this was when we whittled it down all the way, just 700 or something. That's 210% efficiency on that item. I don't know. I mean, to me, that seems pretty ridiculous. That seems pretty ridiculous. So I could definitely see a world where Azir would go like Nashor's, Guinsoo, Death Cap, and just delete everybody. I mean, Rylai's is really good. Rylai's plus Leandri's is good, but if we look at the cost on Rylai's plus Leandri's, you know, that's 3,100, and I think Rylai's is 2,600. It's something like, it's 5,700. Now, Nashor's Tooth, and if you ever actually auto-attack somebody with that much AP, like if you physically auto-attack them, not with your soldiers, I don't even know if Azir can do that. He probably can. You would get all of that extra on-hit damage and stuff too. So if like you have a melee person in your face, I don't remember where I was going with it, but the moral of the story is that item is going to be super, super strong right now, I think, on a lot of champions. It's even worth rushing on some champions. I think there's definitely an argument to still rush it on Kog'Maw for sure. You could even see it on champions like Jinx, although it would be weird because she has such a huge steroid on her Q. You might see entirely new builds that might be like Jinx with, I don't know, like Wits End Hurricane or something like that. Or Blade the Ruined King Hurricane. You could see the same thing on Kog'Maw because the AP doesn't matter anymore. You're getting so much extra attack speed, you don't have to feel bad about wasting the AP. It doesn't even matter. But then you could also have it on champions that would get Nashor's Tooth. I mean, Kale could be another person who would obviously be a huge beneficiary here. So, I don't know. Like, I think it could be legit on Azir, as weird as that is. I think that it could be legit on Azir because it scales so insanely well with Death Cap because you get that extra 25% ratio on it, or just anyone else who wants to auto attack and does a lot. I think that's mostly just Azir as far as mages go, but anyways, very interesting changes, extremely strong. I think this they're gonna have to nerf this. I think it's gonna be too strong. But we'll see. Okay. Hextech GLP, not going to matter. Back to the other patch notes that they're boiling. Doesn't matter, still a weak item. Stattik Shiv, the fact that I don't know how much bonus it does to minions. I think it does like 50% or something. God, I'm going to be super late for the stream tonight, but whatever. I really, really wanted to get this done. How much did it used to do to minions? Used to do 65% bonus to minions. So this is going to hurt the wave clear early on. I don't know. It hurts the wave clear and it does less damage later. Now rapid fire cannon is a little bit better. But, you know, we might see a paradigm shift. Like, this might be the first time in a long time we see, like, the de facto build shift a little bit away from Infinity Edge Stattik Rapid Fire, because this is definitely a nerf on Stattik, and that's the stronger of the two items, I think. It's less wave clear. It's less damage. And they have just recently nerfed Fleet Footwork, so that doesn't give you as much healing. It's not as powerful as it used to be. Rapid Fire is still pretty good, but this build just doesn't offer any AD, and it's pretty weak at ramping up. It usually needs about 3 items to get going, whereas with that Guinsoo's, like I was talking about, like 1 item and then 2 at the most, and you're off to the races on these champions. So I think we might see like even more champions rush Guinsoo's plus something that interacts with on hit. Guinsoo's plus Hurricane, Guinsoo's plus Wits End, if it's a champion that has some kind of AP damage in their kit. Guinsoo's plus, I'm pretty sure Wits End is on hit damage, not spell damage, so that would not work with Azir. That would be super overpowered if his soldiers procced Wits End. So yeah, we might see that even on champions like Jinx or Twitch. You know, it's totally possible that you might see a Guinsoo's rush with different stuff on there, and it wouldn't be troll anymore. It would actually potentially be pretty good. Maybe Tristana. I mean, Tristana has a huge attack speed steroid too. She does, you don't build AP on her, but she does have an AP ratio on her ult. So that extra 25 AP, she does have an AP ratio on her ult. She does have one on her explosive charge. A pretty good one, and a pretty good one on her ult. So, and 100, I mean, that's not quite Jinx's level, but it's pretty close. I mean, you could see, like, Guinsoo's, maybe Guinsoo's Hurricane on her. Because Hurricane has just about as good a wave clear as Stattik Shiv does, and so you're not really giving up that much there, and then you get the extra on-hit damage. Now, she doesn't have any on-hit modifiers that are good. Now, that would let you charge your explosive charge, like, really fast on people. So that you could reset your jump, but, she doesn't have, like, any crazy on-hit stuff like Varus or Kog'Maw. But she does have a huge attack speed steroid, so, I mean, you could see it with, like, a Hurricane, Blade the Ruined King again. She set her down. She keeps crawling over here. She wants to go hang out with Pappy.
Yeah.
Oh, God, I thought I wasn't recording for a second. I was like, what? Hold on, let me see this. I don't know if we can...
I picked her up already.
So, he's trying to put her to sleep, and I guess she put her on the floor in there, and she just keeps crawling her way over to me. When I was in the bathroom, she crawled her way to me last night, and then... Is Daddy fun? Like to hang out with Pappy?
Daddy lets you stay up late and play with toys.
That's right. Daddy lets you stay up late and play with toys.
And feeds you...
Feeds you juice boxes.
Not juice boxes.
Throws you in the air. Is that fun, Rory?
Yeah. But that's not, those are not good bedtime activities.
So I'm excited to see where this goes now. You know, the more research I've done with this Guinsoo is going to get pretty wacky. So you're going to see some pretty interesting, fun builds. Good night, Rory. Good night. We'll see you in the morning. Maybe in the morning before the afternoon this time. We'll see. I had to get up and shovel the driveway this morning, and I already stayed up till like 6 or 7 doing channel stuff. And then I ended up waking up at like 12:30 and taking her to daycare. The daycare workers are like, what? Because I'm on spring break right now. My university is. Okay. Another big changer here, and then we've got to move on. We got to end this thing. Ignite's going to be a lot stronger, so get ready to party bot lane. And the cooldown on heal, that is huge. An extra 30 seconds is a very big deal. You might actually see AD carry start taking barrier now instead of heal. I don't know. That's pretty extreme. Oh no. But you already see Ignite most of the time bot lane, and now you're just going to run it all the time bot lane, I'm pretty sure. That is a lot of damage. Look at that scaling. That's an extra, like, 95 true damage at level 18. That's a lot of damage. Hey, you know who likes to run Ignite a lot? Assassins. Like Fizz. You know what assassins don't like? They don't like heal. Oh, heal got nerfed also? Oh, Abyssal Mask got nerfed also? Oh, cool. Oh, Seraph's Embrace got nerfed? My God, Fizz, dude. I hate that champion so much. He's going to be so ridiculous on this patch. But yeah, so this is to force more action, primarily in pro play, so you don't have double TP lanes, teleport, because that just forces teams to play extremely safe, because they could get teleported on any time, and so you can't fight ever. A lot of times, because people are going to teleport on you, people are already running, like, Shen, Galio, that crap, in pro play, and so it just makes it to where you just can't ever fight, hardly. You have to live in constant fear, because you might get teleported on. So this is going to say, okay, well, if you want to take teleport mid lane, then the person who takes Ignite is going to be a lot stronger at killing you. And that's what they're trying to do, and that's probably going to work. It's going to force a lot more action mid lane. I don't think this is going to force people top lane to take Ignite. I still think you'll have to have teleport top, but it should force people off teleport in the mid lane. They're either going to have to take Ignite or something to counter Ignite better, something like a barrier to counter a little bit better. So we'll see. But yeah, this is definitely, if you're just kind of a farming weak sort of champion early on, you know, like a Janna or maybe a Soraka early on, it's going to be a bit harder on you. The all-ins are going to be a bit tougher. Now, there is a rune that's going to help you out with that if you rune correctly, but it is going to be tougher. So you might see a resurgence in Leona, Xayah, you know, just more action bot lane type of champions. But and they're going to be able to prey on things like Vayne, Twitch, just things that have a weaker laning phase. Okay, Conqueror. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because, frankly, I don't fully understand like where this is going to fit in. The problem with Conqueror is press the attack is already a rune, and it's difficult to see where someone would want Conqueror instead of press the attack. The one situation I think is against tanks, I didn't do all the math on this, but getting the extra 20% damage. Now, that only refreshes, from what I understand, the true damage. So you still get the attack damage, I think, if you attack if you're ranged, but you don't get the true damage refresher. You might have to charge it again after 4 seconds. I don't know on ranged, but it's going to be pretty bad on ranged champions, so you're not going to see it on ranged champions, I don't think. But now, so the question becomes, which melee champions would want this? I think it's split pushers against tanks would specifically want this. So if you are a Fiora, a Jax, a Darius, or an Irelia, this is probably pretty good for you. Fiora especially would probably like this. She already does pretty good true damage normally on her abilities, but, you know, she still does auto attack. It still would apply to her Q, the portion that's not true damage if she's not popping vitals. So it'll still be good there. Jax would really like this against tanks. Press the attack is really good on Jax, but, you know, against tanks, having that extra true damage would be really nice. On hit, having the extra AD is pretty good. Darius is a clear winner here. He does have true damage on his ult, but, you know, his bleed and his other abilities don't do true damage, so that would help out a lot there. And then Irelia, same deal. She does some true damage, but she would really like to do more. So I think those would be the main users. The problem is it competes with Press the Attack, and I think Press the Attack is better for short fights. So if you're going to be fighting squishies and you're going to kill them, you know, in under 4 seconds or whatever, 3 or 4 seconds when you engage on them, then Press the Attack is just going to be better. Because this has to charge up for 4 seconds, I believe. Yeah. So you can, like, so this is really like for in lane. You know, if you charge this up for 4 seconds, you can engage once you get your extra 10 damage. And you can sort of just keep this up. But it's just not as much burst. It's not good for smaller trades. Like Press the Attack. Press the Attack, you go in, you do your combo, you have your auto attack reset or whatever, your Jax, your Lucian, you know, your Shyvana. You get your Press the Attack, it does spike damage, and then Press the Attack also makes the person take 12% extra damage from all sources. Not just you, but everybody. So in a team fight, Press the Attack is way stronger, I think, because that's going to have everyone on your team do an extra 12 damage. So I don't know. I think it's going to be overhyped. I think a lot of people are going to be trying it out. I think it can be pretty good, like I said, for some. And it can't do AP either, so it can't apply to sustained AP champions. You know, like you're not going to see this on a Xayah or Rise or anything like that. It's strictly AD. There we go. It's not adaptive damage, so it's strictly AD. The extra true damage is nice, but you don't want to waste... You don't want to get this on like Rise or something like that. I don't think so. So I think it'll be overhyped. You might see it, like I said, specifically against tanks. You're against a Maokai top lane. You're an Irelia. You're a Jax. You're against a, you know, an Ornn top. You know, something like that. Somebody who has decent AD ratios that just really wants to be able to break through tanks. I mean... Maybe you could see this on someone like a Pantheon, but a lot of those champions, once again, want to bully out people early, and they'll just take Electrocute. So Electrocute's another thing. On like if you're like, well, maybe an AD assassin would like this, you know, after they trigger it, it does 20% even off of abilities. Now there might be 1 or 2 champions that really break this that make it very good, but I just don't think it's going to see a lot of widespread good use. You know, the best cases, like I said, are sustained damage champions that are going to take a while to kill a tank, and they just want to be able to do that a bit faster. So people who might take Press the Attack, like, you know, Fiora, Jax. I don't think Darius takes Press the Attack. I don't even know what Darius takes right now. I think he gets, like, Phase Rush or something. So Darius is probably the biggest beneficiary of this, because that, you know, makes his bleed damage do a lot more. So yeah, we'll see. I just think most people in a lot of situations are still going to take Press the Attack unless they're splitting against a tank, and tanks aren't super popular. So this would be kind of like the Scion Breaker, if you want to think of it that way. Okay, and finally, Chrysallis. Now, bone plating, I don't think that's going to matter. Usually, if people are going to proc this, they're going to proc it within 3 seconds anyways for all ends. So I don't think it's going to be a huge deal. So Chrysallis is something that I think will actually be pretty good in the bot lane especially. It is competing with Second Wind, which is a thing. So early on, you get 60 HP. So it's not that great. That's only 160 gold value early on. Second Wind is about a 275 gold value early on. So Second Wind is going to be a lot better. It's in the same tree. However, this helps you against All In. Second Wind's math, I did the math on that in past rune videos. That's really shaky, and that's really only if you're taking small trades and you're not at full health the whole time. So if you're at about half health and you're taking like small trades the whole time, then Second Wind is going to be better. If you're closer to full health, if you're like at 75% or more health, then Chrysallis is going to be better. You know, Second Wind typically is close to like 1 to 1.5 Reju beads, and Reju bead is about 150 gold value. So if you're like super low health a lot, you could get the value all the way up to 250 to 275, you know, value or so. However, once you transform this, once you get 4 kills or assists, you transform it, you get 15 extra AP. That's a 326 gold value. So that's actually pretty good. So what this will be good against is, and Second Wind is not good against All In. So if Leona All Ins and tries to kill you, it's not going to matter that over 10 seconds you would regen, you know, 50 health or whatever the number is, right? 40 health over 10 seconds, because you're going to be dead. You're not going to be alive to regen that, right? But 60 extra HP, that can save you against Leona. That's a really big deal. That's like, you know, a lot of these enchanters are going to start off, if you go into the resolve tree, you're going to have like 600 HP or something. So this is like 10% extra HP early on that also transitions later into something useful, into the AP. You know, when that 60 AP or the 60 health is not going to matter as much, you know, like level 9 or so, when you've got, you know, 1200 health, 60 HP, not going to be as big of a deal. But transitioning into 15 AP can actually be pretty good. So, you know, that's why I think it'll be good. So I think this has someone like Rakan probably written all over it. It's going to be an anti-burst lane. So if they have someone in their lane that wants to party, you know, like Leona or Draven or Xayah, something like that, and you combine this with bone plating, and you're going to have a lot of defense early on against all ends, and it's going to turn into something useful later on. You might, you know, you might even be able to see this on something like Xayah. I haven't done the math on that. That'd be a little weird, but being able to get to 15 AP is pretty nice in certain matchups. Probably not. I mean, I think the best case for this is going to be if you go Guardian Janna, which is the way that I like to run Janna. Then you can get this and then transition that over to the 15 AP later because she has really good AP ratios. Or like Lulu. You could get this as a secondary as Lulu. And it could be both. If it's a really passive lane, if you think you're going to completely dominate the lane, you can get it because you're going to get 15 AP later. Or if you think you're going to get completely stomped, then you can also get it, and it'll be useful. It's only in those kind of like middle ground cases where it's going to be about an even lane, and you're going to be taking consistent poke from something like a Nami or a Sona or whatever, where Second Wind's probably going to end up ahead. But anyways, that's going to be it for this very long patch notes video. I was trying to do it earlier, but there's just so much to talk about, as I always say every patch, especially Guinsoo's, because I think this is going to be very, very misunderstood by the vast majority of the population for a little bit until they see some pro players do it, and so I wanted to give you kind of the scoop on it. And there are a couple other things that I think were pretty misunderstood that we went into. But yeah, anyways, that's going to be it. Thank you very much. Have a good day, and I'll see you next time.